We decided to become foster carers. We knew a couple of other foster carers who were fairly young like us. We already had a 3-year-old son at the time and were quite established as a family, but we thought we could offer more to more children without necessarily having to have more children. We had a good family set up and we thought we would like to help as many children as we could. We did think that we were maybe a little bit young for fostering. You kind of assume that it's, as a young family, maybe that's not possible, but we knew our son would really enjoy having company of other children, and we thought, let's try. So we thought, let's give it a go. So we got in touch with the fostering team. We have been approved for short-term placements and emergency placements. So short-term placements are anything up to 2.5 years, and emergency placements could be a weekend or a day. We also were approved for some daycare and stayover care for 1 extra child as well. These are for children who are young, so under 2.5 years old. So yeah, anything up to 2.5 years within our care is what we have been approved for, and turns out that's what we have ended up doing as well. So yeah. Okay, so the types of support that we get from fostering, there is a lot of support out there for us as foster carers. Our main point of contact and our main sort of form of support is our supervising social worker, who is always at the end of the phone, at the end of an email if we need her, and any changes that happen within the foster journey, she's always there to help us and talk us through that, because there's lots of information that's thrown at you at one time, and you need someone kind of to just step back and actually talk through that with you, which is always so helpful. And then we're also
we have a fantastic buddy, our foster buddy, who we have a little WhatsApp group with. I work away a lot, so being able to be present on a WhatsApp group and see what's going on and see any questions that might have come up is always useful. Our buddy has been doing this for a long time and is a fountain of knowledge, isn't she?
And I guess it's nice for you to know that I have support not only from professionals, but also from someone who's going through, can relate, is actually going through what we're going through is really helpful. So we can, if I have a question that I might think actually is more of a practical level of what I need to help with care for the children, or who do I talk to about this? It's so nice to have someone there that's on the end of a WhatsApp straight away, this is what I would do. And I know that if I needed someone to come over in the evening or really needed some really help with the child that I'm looking after, she's always there, as well as a big group of foster carers. I have a big WhatsApp group of foster carers, and some of them have ranged from new people like us, we're still fairly new, to people that have been doing this for 15, 20 years maybe. So there's never a question unanswered in that sense as well.
There's also never a stupid question, is there? Like you can ask, like you can say, this might be a stupid question, but, and either a joke will be made out of it or just a very nice, helpful answer will come back.
I ask a lot of questions, but it's good because there's always an answer, which is really helpful. And then along with that as well, there's so much training available. So you have to go through lots of training in the beginning, which obviously prepares you for what they can try and prepare you for, because there's so much that can go on in fostering, but there's constant training and constant updates, and if there's something that you need to know about, there'll be training for it, and it's really useful to have that. And you can revisit it. A lot of it sometimes is online and you can read. They'll give you recommended reading, there's books, there's lots of things that you might want to go back to, revisit, or simply just learn more about your unique situation. There's so much out there to find out.
Yeah, I found the male support group quite helpful, just having an informal place to chat about other people's scenarios as well, to see how it's relevant to our situation. That was quite good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the support groups. Yeah, they meet sort of monthly, sometimes even more so, depending on your area, the children that you have, and to again meet up in a room with people who are going through what you're going through, chat through scenarios and just relate to people. And for the children as well, it's good for the children to get together and you feel like you've got someone that can relate to what you're going through, which is an unbelievable help. Okay, so some good times and some bad times from our first experience of fostering. I mean, the good far outweigh the bad. I mean, it's not an easy job by any means. You're looking after someone else's child 24/7. The responsibility feels huge, but ultimately is one of arguably the most rewarding things you can do, is to help a child that's in need. So let's talk about some of the things that, I guess you could count under the bad, but you are quite restricted in sometimes a bit of life, really. You can't just say, I'm going to go on holiday next week. You can't sort of say, oh, can you look after this child while I go to the gym to like a friend? Obviously these children are very highly protected, as they should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are lots of avenues to go down. But all I have to say is we've learnt to adapt to that.
Definitely.
So you have to plan things a bit further ahead, and also ask for help. I think for the first year of our fostering journey, we didn't ask for much help because you get so wrapped up in the things that you're doing and you want to do your best. And I think actually we soon realised that you need to ask for help in the sense of, I need a bit of a break.
Yeah.
Can we plan for some time to do things as a family with just our son, which is really important. And we've just had to learn to plan ahead a bit more.
Yeah, be efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job. It's 24-hour care for someone else's child, and that responsibility does feel huge. I think it hit me maybe 3 days into having our first placement. I'm looking after someone else's child, and obviously the level of care you feel like it has to be amazing level of care because they've been put into your care for reasons someone else can't look after them. But what I will say with that is it's okay to say sometimes they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
Children have bad days, adults have bad days, that's okay. So I think that's really important to remember.
There's a lot more paperwork than we were expecting, I think. Would you say that? Things like children fall over and bruise themselves. You have to do a body map for that. We weren't necessarily expecting that at the start, but
the level of paperwork, the level of
attention to detail, I guess.
Yeah. But you get a lot of support with that. So again, the supervising social workers help you with everything you would need to do with that sort of level of detail. But I would say that all of these things are outweighed by the fact that you are helping a child that's in need.
Absolutely.
And the rewards that it gives you, the fact that you've helped. Even if you do a few days, if it's an emergency placement, I think we should just feel really proud that we've helped a child, even if it's one child. We've only had one placement, but we would do it again. So that shows that even though these things are difficult to handle, the good far outweigh the bad. And when we speak to people, and if we say, oh, we're foster carers, everyone always says, oh, I couldn't do that. And I think we would have said the same 5 years ago, having not actually maybe delved into it a bit more and had this advice from other people. But what I would say is we would do it again. So it can't be that bad.
Absolutely, it can't be that bad. Yeah. Fair enough.
Okay, what advice would we give ourselves if we were new foster carers again? I think the main bit of advice is make sure you have enough support. And that support is not only from the fostering team, it's from your family, it's from friends. If you've got any teachers in the family or anyone that's knowledge of children, make sure that you've got support that you can go to, because, again, it is a huge responsibility, but with asking for help, asking for advice and not taking on that burden all by yourself, it makes it so much easier, so much more
palatable, easier to manage.
Yes, and also it's just so much more sustainable if you've got that support in place.
Yeah.
If you put that in place beforehand rather than looking for it after, you will have a much easier time. Along that lines, asking for help when you need it is a huge thing that I would give myself advice for. Knowing to say that it's okay, things aren't okay. If you're having a bad day, reaching out for help. Safety check your house, because that's a huge part of fostering, obviously, is safety. It's nothing that you wouldn't want for your house, like having safe windows, safe doors, that sort of thing. But having those things in place first will make things a lot easier down the line. Stair gates and that sort of thing.
Stair gates in the right place as well.
Yeah.
Stair gates.
Practical things.
Yeah.
And I think just having a sense of knowing that you can do this, it's, if we're just a normal family, we're no one special, but we have, we have looked after a little one for 2 years, and we would do it again. And there's no reason why other people couldn't do it too. And the rewards you get from it are just immense, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
So
I don't think it affects our lives too much, does it? we just go about our normal day-to-day business, just an extra.
It becomes if you can just sort of relax into it a bit whilst keeping that professional, sort of line there, you can live a normal life with your family that already exists, and just incorporating this child into your family, it makes it much more
enjoyable.
For everyone all round.
You just live a normal life, don't you?
Yeah. Okay, so the assessment process of becoming a foster carer, it can seem really daunting at first. It's, I think I remember sort of weekly visits with a social worker, an assessing social worker, and it starts off with asking about you, then it goes into your family, your finances, your past work. It's a very in-depth assessment, as it should be. There's a lot of paperwork that you have to fill in, and lots of diagrams you fill in about your family tree, and it goes right into depth about...
but you enjoyed doing that.
Most of it.
Didn't you? It was very creative.
But it is a daunting process to go through, and especially at the beginning, because you have all these weeks of assessment to go through. But at the end of the day, it's a couple of hours on a Zoom call or face-to-face, as most of them are now, and a bit of paperwork. They're not trying to catch you out. They're just trying to make sure that you are...
Well, it's the welfare of the child. It's about that. You just got to make sure 100% this is a safe environment, and it's worth it in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, so, we were quite happy, we had nothing to hide. So it's sort of, we were happy to give out all of our information. And I think the main thing is just to be honest, because it's only wasting your time and other people's time at the end of the day, but it's nothing that you wouldn't do for a really high security job. People go through police checks and bank account checks. If you're having a loan, you'd go through
a mortgage.
It's nothing out of the ordinary for that sense of security. In fact, I'd say it's probably less daunting than trying to buy a house and the paperwork you go through for trying to buy a house. And it's just a case of being open and honest and keeping up with the paperwork. But like I say, at the end of the day, it's
for a child's welfare, isn't it?
It's a few hours with a social worker and some paperwork. It's not the end of the world, and at the end of the day, if you become a foster carer, it's also worth it. So we, in terms of keeping our son a big part of our fostering journey and making sure that everything was okay with him, was started off in the assessment, and so there was a big part of the assessment where talked about our son and about his personality, his needs, how we thought he might cope with having, to him, essentially a strange child come into the home and a lot of attention be put on that child, as he was an only child at the time. And we were honest, we just said, we don't know until we do it. We think he would really like it. Yeah. He was too young, he was only 2.5, 3 at the time, to really talk to him about it. But we got lots of advice on how to... make sure that his needs were heard. We were checked with him a lot of the times along the way, and social workers spoke to him as well and tried to put it in his sort of age-appropriate terms, but keep him very much the centre of
at the forefront of everyone's mind as well.
Exactly.
He was a very important part of this.
Yeah.
And if he didn't want to do it, then maybe we would renegotiate and rediscuss what we were doing. But he's always been very supportive. In his words, our foster daughter is on holiday with us until her situation, until her mummy gets better, is what he said. But which I thought was quite sweet. But he's just very loving and wants to help as well, and enjoys having someone to play with in the house. So.
But again, his needs have always been kept at the forefront of everyone's minds, like you said, and that has been reevaluated over time. And actually, now that something has changed within our situation as foster carers, he now has his own team of people come and see him specifically, which he absolutely loves, to make sure that things are explained to him in an age-appropriate and child-friendly way, because we might not know the right terms to use in a child way, but there are books that have been brought to him to explain it, which seems to work really well. And we've had the facts team out to our house who have sat with him and explained it to him and asked him about his feelings in a way that he doesn't realise he's being...
In a playtime sort of way. And he gives away a lot more information than he would do to us just in a conversation whilst he's playing. So it's quite interesting to see sometimes.
Yeah, and it's really reassuring to know that his thoughts are being heard and accounted for and supported. So it's great to see that that has evolved as things have changed in our situation, and it's not just a one-time thing of, at the time of assessing, will your child mind being part of a foster care team? Yes, great, and that's it. It's very much been changing and assessed each step of the way, and if there's help needed, it's been given. Okay, so work-life balance as a family who fosters. I mean, Tom works away quite a lot when he's at work. He's out of the country sometimes, so you adapt by dialing in remotely.
Yeah, I mean, the modern world's a small place nowadays. You've got video calling and all that sort of stuff. So I can still be quite present, even if I'm in America or in Japan or somewhere that my work has taken me. You know, so yeah, the world has definitely got smaller when it comes to that sort of stuff. And it's nice to be involved. Like we have the WhatsApp group with our buddy. We have multiple avenues to discuss what's going on at home, and it's just good to talk about stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just great that you can still be involved even though you're not even in the country, let alone in the house.
Or the time zone.
All the time zone, which is really useful. For me personally, I am the main caregiver, so I am the one at home with the child predominantly, and I had intentions when I first started fostering to keep up with my previous job, which was nursing, agency nursing, just keep in a little bit, so maybe a shift every few months, but I soon found that actually having an under 2, a baby, was very time consuming. You put all your efforts into looking after this child, so that idea kind of went out the window. But I then adapted and started some online work, so that I still had something for me and something separate from fostering, which is really important to have your own sort of life outside of fostering. And I had support with that from my social worker, who was very good in saying, look, if I need some daycare for the little one, then that was always available. If I needed some help with having some time to myself to do some training or whatever it needed, we were always supported with that. And you know, if you've got a child who's school age, obviously a lot of working mums work in children at school age, so a lot of foster carers that I know of do still work some hours during school hours if you have older children. But yeah, working with a 1 under 2 was difficult to prove out of the house, difficult to try and work with out of the house as such, but we found a way around it, and it's worked out really well in the end.
So for me, having the male support group was a very useful tool. I work away a lot, so I'm not at home all of the time. So to be able to dial into a video call with the men's support group and just have a very informal chat about other people's scenarios, what's going on in our scenario, and making light of certain scenarios, and having a bit of a joke and a laugh in a very informal setting is very useful. I would prefer to do this in person as well. It'd be nice to do some curry clubs and all that sort of stuff, but unfortunately with my job, post-COVID, getting busier and busier and busier, I've had to rely on the online version. But it's still very useful to have that to your disposal. Our immediate families love the fact that we have become foster parents. They are fantastic grandparents and uncles and aunties, and they all just jumped at the chance to have another child to essentially fuss over and have a wonderful fun time with. But you do need that support network around you. We're very fortunate that we have quite a large support network around us, and we do lean on them at times to go for the walk in the park, and we all go and just. But you're spending time with your own family at the same time. It's a very privileged thing to be able to do, isn't it?
Yeah, we definitely have a family who's very inclusive, so we knew that we had that support, and we knew that any child we brought into the family would be treated, you know, with respect. They'd be treated as one of our own, and luckily a lot of our family and friends also understand that, you know, we can't talk about their case, we can't talk about their individual, you know, why they're in care and all these questions that strangers seem to ask you. And so we'd never had to deal with that. They just accepted them and treated them as their own, which
absolutely
is essential for that child to feel part of your family, as well as for you to be able to have that support from other people. And we're lucky that we have, teachers in the family and friends. We have people that work with children. And even if you don't have that, it's not essential. But absolutely, we use that to our advantage, asking for advice.
Yeah.
And having that support, which is really good. And we've had nothing but positivity from our family and friends, which is really, really good.
Yeah, just keeping it a very normal circumstance, as if they're one of your own, and no one needs to know the details of the case today. It's none of their business. And yeah.
Okay, so one of the big things we get asked quite a lot is, can you take the child away on holiday with you and your family? And I mean, the answer is absolutely yes. So if the child's with you in short-term foster care, they're less likely to be able to go abroad because getting a passport and those sort of logistics are very difficult. But certainly holidays in the UK, so we've taken our looked after child away.
Cornwall?
Yeah,
Wales.
To Cornwall, to Butlins, to Wales, London.
Everywhere.
The main thing with that is you just have to plan in advance. You have to make sure that you get permission from the child's social worker. And we plan around a lot of other things. So we plan around maybe family time, or plan around any meetings that might be in the diary. But I think the first time we did it, it was a little bit daunting because, you have to there's email chains and there might be forms to fill out of the place you're staying.
A lot of boxes to tick.
Yeah, safety checks. Yeah. But once you've done it once and you understand the system and you plan it far enough in advance, it absolutely is possible. It just takes a little bit more planning. But we didn't find that a problem. No. We soon got to know this, to know the system and the processes to go through. And yeah, we've had lots of holidays and given her opportunities that she might not have got otherwise. And we certainly didn't want her to miss out. And she has thrived from it, hasn't she? She's learning, give confidence and cultures and generally just being happy, seeing new things.
And it's all part of that normality as well. She's part of our family. She comes with us.
And also with that, it's also keeps things as normal as possible for our birth son, because we used to go away a lot before having a foster child in our care, and we didn't want that just to stop because of having this child in our care. He didn't choose to have this child in our care, so we didn't want him to miss out. And equally, us as a family, to have that time away is really important, and it's been definitely possible and actually really rewarding to do that, knowing that you've given this child memories which they might not have otherwise had. Okay, so family time with the looked after child's biological family, that is something that can be quite tricky to deal with, not only from a sense of you might feel a bit intimidated or a bit awkward about actually facing the biological family. I think we initially felt like we were the ones that might be
seen as taking their baby away in a weird way. We might be seen as the enemy, but I don't think it ever came across like that, did it? No,
it turns out, that any sort of ill feelings are towards the care system and not to us individually as foster carers, which that was sort of good to realise.
But it was a relief, I think, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah. But so that can be quite difficult to deal with, plus the actual level of family time that might occur. So we had a bit of an unusual circumstance where it was 3 hours, 3 times a week when she was very young. And that actually came about on the days that it did, because I said, well, these are the days that my son is in nursery and these are the days that I can offer. And that was very much heard, because I think it's really important to be realistic about what you can offer and what's sustainable. I think as new foster carers, you kind of want to say yes to everything because you want to be seen to be
proactive, and you might want to impress, especially if it's your first one. But sticking to your guns and sticking with what's actually sustainable and reasonable for you and your family is extremely important.
Yeah, as well as being adaptable for the system, because there has to be this. Obviously, there are sort of court orders and there are things that have to be done, but we were very much supported with getting that in with a schedule that worked for us and our son, which is extremely important, and we wanted to stick to that, and therefore it worked for a very long time. And I think without that, if I'd have offered, say, 5 days a week, it wouldn't have been sustainable.
That would have broken down, I'm sure.
Yeah. So it was it had worked well. I'm not saying it wasn't easy. I'm not saying it was easy. It was quite difficult to juggle family time as well as looking after a newborn at the time. And I think this is where asking for help comes in. So later on, I realised that I could ask for help with some transport for family time as well a bit later on, which really helped with things.
Yeah. So the social worker would come and pick her up and take her to, if we really couldn't do it. So
it was very much a joint effort, and if I needed help, I got it, which was really useful, as well as making sure I did my part, which obviously you agree to in the beginning. If you're a foster carer, you're an advocate for this child, so you have to do what the child needs, and that's really important as well.
Yeah.
But working with the team, asking for help when you need it, and we were heard about what our needs were and what we could offer. That was taken on board, that was made into a schedule that worked, and that was really good.
Yeah, we've never been forced to do anything we aren't able to do, have we? So
no, it has to be what works for you and your family and the child and the system, and as long as you work together, that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so what to expect in your first year of fostering?
The unexpected.
The unexpected, absolutely. Expect the unexpected. So if you take on a placement that says, could be 12 weeks, could be 6 months, expect that to go longer. Court takes time, placements take time, everything takes time. So for one, expect the unexpected, absolutely. Expect to meet with social workers every week for the first few months, and obviously if there's things that come up, it will be even more, or phone calls added in and emails added in as well. There's meetings at the beginning of the placement and then a bit into the placement to make sure everything's going okay. It's constantly reevaluated, as it should be. But as daunting as that sounds, it's also a chance for you to then bring up any concerns, issues or things that you need some help with. It's a really good chance to say those things, and make sure you do say those things. It's really important that you speak up for you, your family and the child.
And also if you maybe notice, because you're spending 24 hours a day with these children, if you notice a change in their development or something you're concerned about or something that's positive, bring that up as well, and it will help the process, won't it?
So with that comes family time as well. So you'll add in family time with the biological family, and that could be mum, dad, grandparents. It could be more than one set of family time. So
siblings.
Yeah. So expect that. Expect to be busy and expect to be tired, but you soon get into the swing of things, and once you've done something once, I say like one of these meetings once, even if you feel a bit nervous that time, you'll see the same people again in the next meeting. It feels much more relaxed. You're still professional, but you don't feel nervous.
Yeah. You definitely recognise names, faces. There's definitely people that will crop back up again in your journey, and it's nice to see those people and see how, and for them to see how your journey has developed as well. So
also expect your family life will change. So we've kept things really consistent for our son. But obviously we have added another child into the family, so that does change the dynamics of things. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something you have to learn to adapt to, and things might crop up along the way that you have to, develop and adapt to. But again, that's what the support is there from social workers, from other peers, and from friends and family.
Your foster buddy.
Yeah.
Who's gone through it themselves, and they're a good person to sound anything off.
One thing we weren't quite expecting as foster carers was lots of people, the general public, seems to have quite an opinion on foster care, and it's amazing the people that will ask questions of you that, for one, you couldn't give out the information even if you wanted to, but it's just amazing the questions people will ask you.
Very forward questions that have shocked us at times, Very
personal questions. So, we don't go around saying, this child's with us and she's in care. But if the conversation happens to come up, we have had questions like, why is she in care with you? Do her parents not love her? Is it drugs? Is she still seeing her family? Very personal questions which you wouldn't ask anyone in any other scenario. And we were quite shocked by that, because our friends and family know not to ask those questions because it's stuff that we can't talk about, nor would you want to talk about this child's
very confidential personal situation.
So, you talk about that with professionals, you don't talk about that with strangers. So we were quite shocked at that in the beginning, and it's something quite hard to deal with because, for one, you're a bit shocked at that question, and two, you think, how do I answer this politely, but forwardly, in saying, we can't talk about that, nor would we want to talk about that, and sort of, please don't ask foster carers that, because it puts us in an awkward situation. You're asking questions about a child in front of them, which is inappropriate at the best of times, and I think at the beginning we found that quite awkward to deal with, but as time goes on, you sort of get a bit more confident in your position, and we just sort of shut that down straight away. We sort of introduce her. We wouldn't necessarily say that she's in care unless we have to, and then that doesn't lead on to any other questions. And if questions do come up, we say we don't talk about that, for respect of privacy of her. And people very quickly realise, okay, yeah, maybe
I overstepped the mark there.
Yeah, and again, it's probably just a case of a bit of ignorance really as to the system. But I think once you're in it, you understand that a bit more, and you just need that confidence to say, we don't talk about this. I mean, again, with regards to the first year of fostering, I think confidentiality is such a huge part of our role, and we take it really seriously. And I think sometimes you think, I can't talk about this particular scenario with, your friends like you might want to. But on the other side of that, you have the foster carers you can talk to, you have the social workers you can talk to, and you can make it a bit more, we've learned to sort of adapt. So, people want to genuinely know about foster care. We're happy to talk about foster care, absolutely, because we're an advocate for it. You just make things broad. So you say, well, some children are in care because of this, this and this. This is some scenarios that might happen. You haven't got to make it personal. You're not giving anyone's confidential information away, but you're still educating people, which sometimes people just need that bit of information to learn about the scenario. But that was something that shocked us a bit, was the questions complete strangers will ask about this child and their life, which you would never normally ask anyone in real life. And you learn to adapt. Again, in this scenario, I think with foster care, you have to be adaptable. You have to be flexible. It's not something that you can say, this is the plan, this is what's going to happen, and in 6 months' time, this child will be somewhere else. That doesn't happen.
No.
Things change, situations change. So you have to be prepared for that, but just know you will be supported in that. And we've had great communication from the team each step of the way. So things have twisted and changed. I think we've had every scenario possible, even within our first year of fostering, that could be thrown at us. Delays from courts, situational changes, family members coming in and out. But we have been supported with that each step of the way by not only our supervising social worker, but the team in general, and also, say, our peers, our fellow foster carers. And you have a huge circle of people to turn to. Even when you feel like you have to keep things, very confidential, you still have that backup team of people that you can trust and you can talk to, which is really helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to our family life and our house, we have dogs. We have 2 dogs, a whippet and a lurcher, and we had those before we,
even thought about fostering.
Yeah, and we were very, they're very much part of our lives, so they were staying, so we were going into fostering saying we have dogs, so you accept us and our dogs, and we had stair gates up for them to not be able to go in the kitchen at certain times anyway, and same with upstairs. So that helped in the assessment anyway, because we could put them behind a stair gate if we needed to. And actually, after having our assessment, we agreed that actually it was right to have the dogs behind the stair gate when the kids are playing in the lounge, say, so that the dogs don't have to, it's mainly for the dogs. The dogs don't have to worry about children running around, and we don't have to worry about any, the children and the dogs mixing. And that sounds like...
Sounds like we don't trust the dogs. I actually trust our lurcher with the babies better than I do with some humans. But it's mainly just to plan ahead. If you can prevent a situation from even starting to happen, you should do that. And
minimalising the risk. I think looking back, we probably would have done that with our dogs anyway, when our son was born. And actually, it's just good practice that if the kids are running around, the dogs have a safe space with very nice plush beds in a separate room, and then at night time they come and sit on the sofa with us, and it just works really well. And then it's just minimising any risk that can happen, because they're boisterous children and they're two
boisterous dogs,
two lively dogs. Yeah, but it hasn't impacted our life with our dogs. You know, we
still go on walks as a family, as a group unit. We take the dogs out. Across the fields, behind the house, and
And actually, they're very much part of our life. We made that very clear. They were very much respected as part of our family. They were assessed as they need to be assessed, which was fine. And they're actually, a lot of the social workers love the fact that we have dogs, because the children love the dogs. And I think it's really good to grow up with respecting animals and learning about their care.
Learning how to approach a strange dog is very important for everybody, let alone a child. So it's all part of their education, isn't it? And
it was all positive. Yeah, it wasn't a problem that we had dogs. They just had to be assessed as safe to live with children, which is absolutely understandable, and we would want that for our own child anyway. So it wasn't a problem.